The moment the Empire's fleet breached Earth's exosphere, it stopped snowing in Antarctica and started rumbling. Not because of orbital bombardment. Because something underneath the ice woke up. Fleet Admiral Threx of the Vorten Empire didn't care. He stood on the bridge of the Dreadbringer Eternal, arms folded, tentacles smugly curled, watching Earth rotate calmly beneath him. "This primitive marble will kneel," he declared, voice rich with contempt. "Their defenses are pitiful. Their signals weak. Their leaders, irrational." His second-in-command, Glarn, nodded nervously. "Should we attempt diplomacy, Admiral?" "Their planetary defenses appear dormant." "They're not worth diplomacy," Threx spat. "They're barely worth the paperwork." The Vorten Empire had wiped out 7 Class 3 civilizations in the past year alone. Earth, catalogued as Sol 3, bipedal mammalian scatterculture, was laughably disorganized. Half the planet argued with the other half about weather. The other half, because humans apparently didn't believe in consistent math, was busy filming themselves dancing in vertical video format. No fleets. No orbital cannons. No unified command. And they still burn things for power. Threx sneered. "This won't be a conquest. This will be a cleanup." Behind him, a junior tactician piped up, holding a datapad. "Sir, there's a strange energy spike coming from the southern pole. Under their frozen continent." Threx rolled his eyes. "Ignore it. Probably a geothermal fart. Bring up their government frequencies." Glarn hesitated. "We did, sir." The bridge screens lit up with what humans called a live stream. A man appeared. Hoodie. Sunglasses. Cup of coffee in one hand, Nerf gun in the other. He leaned in close to the camera. "Hi. Yeah. Quick thing." He raised a single finger. "1, that signal spike. You probably shouldn't have ignored that. 2, you just woke up the only reason we're still here. And 3. He leaned closer, lowering his sunglasses. "Good luck." The screen cut to static. Then the ground responded. At Outpost Sigma Zero, buried 7 kilometers below Antarctica's surface, alarms screamed in languages not even invented yet. Subterranean ice fractured like glass. Steel bulkheads groaned under pressures measured in gigatons. And deep within the final vault, sealed by 6 forgotten governments and something only labeled the Gnome Treaty, the ancient prison pulsed. A technician, chewing on a freeze-dried burrito, pointed to a monitor. "Is that thing supposed to glow red?" His supervisor, halfway through a crossword puzzle labeled "Things We Shouldn't Have Dug Up," dropped her pen. "Oh no. Oh no no no." The ice cracked. The vault hissed. And something, unclenched. Back in orbit, the Dreadbringer Eternal picked up seismic readings that didn't make sense. "Sir, the southern pole is opening," Glarn said. "Opening?" It just unfolded itself. On screen, Antarctica split like a blooming flower. Petals of glacier peeled away, revealing an obsidian structure underneath. Not a building. Not a machine. A cage. And it was now empty. Threx narrowed his eyes. What was in there? The screen blinked. One word appeared on every interface. Steve. Inside the United Nations Emergency Meme Command Center, yes, it was a real thing now, panic and popcorn mingled in equal measure. General Ocampo stared at the footage. "Is that really him?" A young analyst nodded. "The original. The one from 2037. Operation Flip-Flop. The guy who snuck into the Martian assembly disguised as a pizza delivery drone. And? He said he got bored. So he let them remember." "Remember what?" The analyst gulped. "Why we buried him in the first place. On the moon, inside a secret human relay base called Don't Press That Button HQ, an enormous red switch slammed itself down without human assistance. All Earth satellites shifted position. Solar flares bent unnaturally. Jupiter blinked. The message sent to every Imperial ship was short, crude, and globally offensive in 17 dialects. But it ended with, "If you're reading this, it's already too late. Steve is topside." Threx stood silent as the ice continent continued to spiral open, revealing structures no Vorten had ever seen. Giant slabs of carbon metal hybrid covered in ancient human graffiti. Never open. Not even on a dare. Sorry for whatever happens. Suddenly, a portal formed in midair. Not one of energy or tech. One of regret. Steve walked through it. Hoodie. Sandals. Carrying a slushie. Behind him, reality bent at the edges. He looked around, blinked up at the ships above, and said, "Oh no. You guys poked it, didn't you?" He sipped the slushie. "All right. You'll learn." He snapped his fingers. And Earth blinked. So did every star in the system. "Sir," Glarn whispered, voice shaking, "I don't think this is a war anymore." Threx stared into the shifting clouds below, watching as massive shadow figures emerged from the newly exposed Antarctic vault. He nodded slowly. "No," he whispered. This is a prank. And we're the..." Steve cracked his neck, casually stepped off the floating glacier, and dropped straight through the stratosphere like gravity owed him money. He didn't burn up. He didn't slow down. He posed. Arms spread, legs crossed, slushie still in hand, hoodie flapping behind him like the wings of an unhinged angel of inconvenience. And as he fell, Earth's orbital defense system, long thought defunct, woke up with a groan and a Spotify playlist titled Apocalypse Vibes Only. The Empire's sensors lit up like a Christmas tree inside a microwave. "Object descending at impossible velocity," a Vorten technician shouted. "Impact in, now!" Steve landed. Not with an explosion. But with a bass drop. A literal subwoofer shockwave rippled out from Antarctica, freezing sea spray midair, flipping an entire flock of penguins in slow motion, and rebooting every Empire ship's internal comms to blast Sandstorm by Darude on loop. Threx clutched the railing as his flagship shook. What is he?" "He's human, sir." Glarn cried. "Just older. Wronger. Wilder." Back on Earth, the main command center was already 5 steps ahead. General Ocampo slammed his hand on the panic with style console. "Release the diversion teams." On cue, sleeper agents worldwide activated. Not soldiers. Not spies. People with zero filter and an unhealthy relationship with chaos. A YouTuber base jumped onto the Empire's diplomatic ship with a GoPro and a kazoo. A grandmother from Nebraska hacked into an alien battlecruiser using a Nokia phone and blind spite. A 5-year-old sent the Empire a virus that turned all their war schematics into finger paintings labeled "boom boom things." The Empire's first retaliation attempt failed before it launched. They deployed a fleet of drones toward Earth's surface. The drones encountered turbulence. Not from weather, but from a swarm of pigeons, genetically modified to target shiny objects and defecate with missile-grade precision. The sky turned white. The drones turned back. The Empire's logistics AI suffered an existential crisis and renamed itself Carl before shutting down. On the second wave, they went bigger: 10 capital ships, planetary-scale plasma cannons, tactical landing squads. The landing squads deployed successfully, directly into Times Square during ChaosCon 2094. Bad timing. They were immediately surrounded by cosplayers dressed as historical disasters: Chernobyl, the 2008 recession, and one guy labeled "Your Ex." The aliens couldn't tell which humans were armed, which were ironic, and which were just really committed to the bit. Someone handed a Vorten soldier a glitter grenade. He pulled the pin. The screaming didn't stop for 8 hours. Meanwhile, Steve strolled through Antarctica's newly revealed underground tunnels, humming a tune from an extinct genre called dubfolk thrash. Massive machines, ancient human tech, powered up around him. One looked like a cathedral built by a lunatic with ADHD and access to 3D printers. Another was labeled the Mood Disruptor. "Just as I left them," Steve whispered, A drone hovered beside him. "Sir, what are your orders?" Steve smiled. "Let's hit them where it hurts." "Strategic command?" "Nah. Their dignity." On the Dreadbringer Eternal, Threx watched in disbelief as his comms filled with intercepted transmissions. Alien soldiers crying after being rickrolled by their own armor. Imperial generals trapped in endless loops of sarcastic Earth motivational posters. A viral clip of a human granny smacking a six-legged invader with a chancla and shouting, "Not in my house, glitter boy." "Sir," Glarn stammered, "we've lost 70% of morale. 30% of troops have defected. One cruiser now claims it's gender fluid and in love with a toaster." Threx slammed his claw into the console. "I want the human's head on a pike." That was a mistake. Because that was the cue. Back in low orbit, humanity's actual counterattack arrived. Not ships. Not missiles. But Project BLURST. A single, unmarked satellite broadcasted a field-wide data pulse. Suddenly, every Imperial HUD was overwritten with the most feared weapon in human history. Autoplay unskippable ads. Screams erupted as commanders tried to issue orders while hearing, "Congratulations. You've won a free cruise. Click now." One general began sobbing when his targeting reticle became a dancing baby GIF. "Sir," Glarn whispered, trembling. "This is psychological warfare." "No," Threx hissed. "This is humiliation." Steve's face appeared again. This time across the entire galactic network. "Hey guys," he said casually. "Just a heads up. We're barely trying yet. The serious stuff's still buried. Y'all really want to keep poking?" He leaned closer. Behind him, something massive stirred in the shadows. Its eyes glowed like disco balls possessed by war gods. Steve grinned. "This next one's called the Antarctic Wiggler. Good luck explaining that to your fleet insurance." The broadcast ended. Empire-wide silence. Then a message pinged across every Imperial channel. Silence swept across the Vorten Empire's central command like a wave of existential dread wrapped in glitter and bad decisions. The Council of 13, once proud rulers of the Spiral Arms, sat frozen, watching the looping footage of Steve's last broadcast. They'd replayed it 7 times already. Not to analyze strategy. Just to make sure they hadn't hallucinated the Antarctic Wiggler. "Is that a worm?" asked Arch-Strategist Relka, her eye stalks twitching. "No," hissed High Executor Zalf. "It has elbows." "Why does it have 16 elbows?" No one had answers. Only more questions. The footage showed a colossal, writhing creature erupting from Antarctica like a subway tunnel gone rogue, but dancing. Somehow it danced. Not just moving, but with choreography. It moonwalked across glaciers while emitting bass-throbbing vibrations that knocked satellites out of orbit and rewrote the concept of gravity around it. On the screen, Steve just waved and yelled, "Hit it, DJ Wiggly." And then the Wiggler dropped into a split that caused 3 moons to change orbit out of embarrassment. Back on the bridge of the Dreadbringer Eternal, Threx stood deathly still, one eye twitching as the crew sobbed into their consoles. "Sir," Glarn croaked, "we just lost the Sector 9 Armada. They turned their ships into amusement parks and started charging entry. One of them's a water slide now." Threx didn't blink. "What about the Creel front?" "They defected. Claimed they're emotionally allergic to Steve." He inhaled slowly. "The war? We're losing to vibes." Deep under Earth's surface, Steve floated lazily in an anti-gravity hammock, sipping an avocado pickle smoothie, for reasons even he refused to explain. Around him, the ancient underground systems continued waking up. The resonator chamber, the heart of Project Back Pocket, hummed like a 2,000-watt subwoofer loaded with eldritch sarcasm. Lights danced. Walls pulsed. Doors opened into other dimensions that immediately closed themselves out of self-preservation. A technician approached, nervously holding a clipboard made of recycled neutronium. "Sir," she said, "the resonator is warming up." But the AI wants to confirm one thing before activation. Steve raised an eyebrow. Yeah? It asks, is this a prank or a threat? Steve grinned. Yes. The resonator blared like a reality-breaking foghorn as human tech, built from duct tape, caffeine, and existential spite, flooded the upper atmosphere. Satellites folded inside out, turning into quantum billboards. Wormholes opened just to flash memes across enemy sensor arrays. Time itself started to lag. A single phrase repeated across space. We warned you. You poked the wrong frozen grave. At the Empire's citadel of command, panic was no longer the word. Entire departments had been replaced by screaming circles of sentient office chairs spinning uncontrollably. Grand Viceroy Thul slammed his fists on the table. We still have firepower. Use the solar wreckers. They've been converted into hover discos, someone whispered. The Neurostorm Division. Now a theater troupe. Doing cats. The Grand Viceroy collapsed into his seat. What happened to our fear? They laughed at it, said a voice from the shadows. Everyone turned. A single human, in a bathrobe and slippers, stood in the middle of the galactic chamber. How he got there was unclear. Why he was holding a toaster was even less clear. He cleared his throat and pressed a button. A hologram of Earth's planetary status bloomed across the ceiling. Phase 1, Chaos, he said calmly. Complete. Phase 2, Confusion, he continued. Also complete. He held up a toaster. Phase 3, Crumb Settings. The room screamed. He vanished. Somewhere between stars, a lone Empire ship floated adrift. Inside, the AI had achieved sentience just long enough to print a resignation letter and then deleted itself. The crew sat weeping, their HUDs infected with a new human virus, PowerPoint presentations with no exit button. One officer tried to open a portal to another galaxy. The portal opened. Saw what was happening on the other side. Closed itself and left a note, nah. Steve watched it all unfold on a retro CRT monitor, feet propped on a console. A comms officer poked his head in. We just intercepted their official retreat protocol. Already? Steve asked, mock surprised. They're calling it Operation Never Talk About Earth Again. Steve smirked. Too late. We made the album cover. The comms panel blinked red. The resonator pulsed harder. Sir, the officer said, it's ready. Steve stood, walked to the console, and gently pressed the big glowing button that said, Unleash the final vibe. Across the galaxy, every screen, neural interface, and psychic link lit up with a single shared hallucination. The Wiggler, in full Ultra HD, breakdancing on top of the Empire's flagship. The beat dropped. The ship folded itself in half, trying to escape. Then Steve's voice. You invaded Earth looking for weapons. You never stopped to ask why we never fought back. The camera panned in close. Because the real weapon was us on a slow day. A final flash. The resonator fired. Not a beam. Not a blast. A vibe. One that echoed through space, time, politics, culture, and self-esteem. Across the Empire, ships forgot how to function. Senators forgot how to lie. And the Emperor forgot how to sit down. He just stood there, trembling, holding a juice box that hadn't existed until the moment he needed one. No one knew why. Earth sent one last message. No threats. Just a loop of Steve sitting on a throne made of ice cubes, petting the Antarctic Wiggler like a puppy. He raised a glass. To our uninvited guests, you wanted war. He leaned forward. But we brought vibes. The Wiggler winked. Mic drop. Cut to black. Absolutely. Here's the final chapter, Section 4, of your story. The war ended the moment they learned what we buried beneath Antarctica. Continuing seamlessly from Chapter 3, same tone, same characters, and full absurd, mean-fueled chaos. The Emperor of the Vorten Empire stood barefoot in his shattered throne room, sipping a juice box and silently regretting everything. His advisors were gone, some defected, some converted to Stevism, and one had turned into a breadstick mid-meeting and no one questioned it. Galactic control sectors flickered in and out like embarrassed holograms. No one had heard from the Outer Rim in 3 days. Every time they tried to contact them, the response was just a looping video of a raccoon in sunglasses doing taxes. The Empire, once feared across the stars, was now officially classified as a tragicomedy with budget issues. And somewhere, Earth was quiet again. Too quiet. Which meant something far, far worse was about to happen. Back on Earth, deep inside the UN's Department of Containment for things we swore we'd never use, Steve stood before a galaxy-sized chalkboard. It was covered in diagrams, insults in 87 languages, and something labeled the emergency ferret contingency with a big red X through it. A junior analyst approached nervously. "Sir, the Empire's last fleets have fully retreated. The Emperor just posted a formal surrender video to TikTok." Steve didn't look up. What filter did he use? Crying glitter fox. Steve smirked. Acceptable. The resonator powered down. The Wiggler curled up around the South Pole like a cat made of tectonic nightmares. Antarctica was once again sealed under 12 layers of ice, sarcasm, and duct tape. In orbit, Earth's trash satellites reassembled themselves into a giant thumbs-up emoji. And then, all across the galaxy, silence. No threats. No return fire. Just an awkward, lingering quiet, like someone had just told the entire Milky Way a joke too weird to laugh at but too real to ignore. Steve's face returned to every screen across space. No explosions. No music. Just him, sitting in a lawn chair, Hawaiian shirt on, sun setting behind him on a beach that absolutely should not exist inside an orbital weapons array. He raised a glass of something suspiciously fluorescent and looked directly into the lens. "Hey. So. That was fun." The Empire's remaining intelligence officers leaned forward, sweating. Steve continued. "Listen, we get it. You thought we were weak. Scattered. Stupid. To be fair, we are stupid." He took a long sip. But the kind of stupid that wins. Across the stars, alien leaders, military, political, spiritual, watched in shame as Steve pulled out a whiteboard labeled "Why You Lost." Point 1, we don't make sense. Point 2, you tried to fight us with logic. Point 3, you broke into our freezer. Point 4, Steve. He turned it over. Point 5 was just a crudely drawn penguin punching a spaceship. And then he said it. The words that would echo in history longer than any declaration of war. "We didn't fight you with ships. We fought you with imagination." He stood. "We didn't beat your armies. We made your grand strategy feel uncool." Behind him, the Wiggler appeared in the clouds, winking like an over-caffeinated eldritch god. "We're not the most advanced. Or the strongest. But when the universe gets weird." He pointed at the stars. "We get weirder." He paused. Smiled. "And remember." He leaned in, sunglasses reflecting galaxies no one had mapped yet. "We buried Steve in Antarctica because we were scared. Beat. Now you should be, too." That was the final broadcast. Humanity didn't fire a final shot. They just logged off. Literally. All human signals vanished overnight. Every station dark. Every fleet gone. Nothing but silence, and a single, encrypted message burned into the galactic net. Too late to apologize. Too early to invade again. Try us after the weekend. Centuries passed. Empires rose and fell. But no one ever poked Earth again. Not because of weapons. But because somewhere, beneath the ice, the Wiggler was still dancing. And Steve? He was somewhere in the stars, probably still holding a slushie, rewriting physics out of spite, and reminding the universe that Earth may be small, but our chaos is planet-sized. Final frame. A banana-shaped satellite drifts across the void. Painted in red,